More like 6 feet underground.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Deep Dive Zone, a Sonic the Hedgehog rewatch podcast for fans of all shapes and sizes. And guys, what the f*** is this?
Sonic Underground, I think?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what I watched.
Yeah, so we are talking today about some of the episodes of Sonic Underground. Mostly just all the ones people care about, because Sonic Underground is a really, really weird Sonic cartoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had DVDs of this show and Adventures of Sonic and X as a kid, and never sat AM, which is like, that's kind of a shame. But I never understood this show even as a kid, because I was like, how could this possibly fit in with the Sonic games that I've played? And, you know, I just didn't understand alternate continuities as a kid. But just everything about this show's production is bizarre.
I don't know if I was quite as weirded out as you were, but I must say, when you introduced me to the show, like, oh yeah, so there's Sonic, and then there's also, he's got siblings. There's Manic and Sonia, and there's this quest. It's like reading a random comic in the Archie comic run. It's like you feel like you're being thrown in the middle of it and don't know what's going on.
Yeah, so in this show, as the wonderfully, like, the extremely high effort opening explains.
Oh yeah, I fucking love that opening.
It's very good.
That man is singing his lungs out.
That man sings the song like it's his goddamn magnum opus, and it may as well be.
Yeah, so as that wonderful opening explains, our protagonists, Sonic and his never again to be seen siblings, Manic and Sonia, are born royalty, and separated at birth because, some weird old guy has a prophecy that they will grow up apart and then rejoin with their mother, Queen Alina, to defeat Robotnik, who takes over in, I guess, the exact same way as Sad AM?
Pretty much.
Not the exact same way.
Well, I guess it wasn't really a coup because he wasn't part of the military.
I don't know.
Never
Maybe...
really explained, actually.
That's true, it
I
isn't.
I have to assume it was similar-ish. The difference is that in Sad AM, he was only supported by Snively,
Right.
But in this one, like, all the aristocrats backed him with funding. Or not all, a lot of them. Not all of them necessarily, but
which is
enough of them dead.
Which is like, I don't know if they were trying to go for a commentary with that. It's one of the only good pieces of commentary in this show. Even if it makes less and less sense as the show goes along, and you see that Robotnik is just a menace and doesn't. It's not like he protects the aristocracy.
No, he doesn't. If given the chance, he'd totally roboticize all of them.
Yeah.
Well, you say that. This is one of my biggest points of confusion in this show.
Mm.
So I totally understand using the aristocrats to get into power, build his army.
Oh, yeah.
That makes total sense.
Yeah,
why does he keep them around afterwards? There's no reason I can see.
I mean, I assume they're running businesses in his empire that bankroll the empire.
But just take
but
over.
What does
like
he even need funding for once he's got enough robots to fucking take over?
Okay, I mean,
My only thought is that there could be other services that they provide that he needs that he can't have all on his own.
Yeah, I would assume so. I mean, you could use the same argument about oligarchs in Eastern Europe. Like, what do they really do after big bad pseudo dictator man has taken over?
Yeah.
Well, they provide money to the government that bankrolls the government.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we don't know exactly how much Robotnik controls in any continuity, frankly,
true.
But it's pretty vague in this one, especially.
Well, Sad AM makes it pretty clear he controls most of Mobius.
In response to that, first of all, they don't make it very clear what the aristocrats provide. What you're saying, I'm pretty sure, is the idea, but it's not displayed very clearly.
That's true, it isn't.
My second comment is if this is based on Sad AM, he totally didn't need anyone in Sad AM because he has robots to do everything. That's the reason why it's different than, giving a real world example.
Oh yeah, of course. At the end of the day, you cannot compare it to something in real life. That I'm just using that as a pseudo example.
Sure.
Yeah. All the more reason to say that this show's world is kind of weirdly developed same deal. He doesn't even hunt the heroes down with robots primarily. He uses bounty hunters, two dumbasses named Sleet and Dingo,
And
who
they're the
are
best goddamn characters in the show.
Thank you, Bruce. You took the words right out of my mouth. I actually really like
Oh,
Sleep and Dingo.
they're very fun.
Far
that's
better
very
than
surprising
Scratch
to
and
hear
Grounder.
from both
Oh
you.
my god,
You know,
yes, I hate Scratch and Grounder so much, but Sleet and Dingo are actually like surprisingly well written and fun to watch.
This
Yeah,
is
because,
very interesting as a perspective because I know that the fan base hates Sleet and Dingo, and maybe they only like Scratch and Grounder because of memes. But this was what I was saying to Lauren in our Lightning Round episode, which will be coming out soon. Is that yeah, no, it's just a surprise. I don't have any particular feelings for or against them. They serve some purpose.
Well, so to me, they serve the same purpose Scratch and Grounder served, but they're just better written and more funny.
Well, the thing is, they both have a bit of a personality to them.
Yeah.
They're not super complex characters, not at
Oh.
all, but there's some depth, unlike
Right.
Scratch and Grounder, and more importantly, they're not complete morons. Dingo, the stupid one of the two, isn't as stupid as either Scratch or Grounder.
Yes.
All
So
right.
it's not as annoying at all.
No, they are so much better than Scratch and Grounder. I'm glad that at least one of you agrees with me on that.
Yeah, I know.
I
Me
don't
too.
necessarily
I feel vindicated
disagree.
now.
I don't know. We should do like a Robotnik lackeys ranking assessment later on once we've got all of them.
Do a tier list for a bonus episode.
Yeah,
It
I
is
think Deco
so
and Boko will
weird
probably be
that
pretty far
became
down.
a trend.
I mean, it kind of the way Robotnik's characterized outside of the classic games. I think it makes sense for him to either make lackeys or find a lackey or just
He
end
needs
up
someone to
with
bounce
one.
off of.
Exactly. Robotnik as a character works well, but he works better when he has someone to bounce off of.
I suppose that makes sense.
Because I think that's what makes Orbot and Cubot work well.
haven't
I
really
enjoy them.
played many
I really
games,
enjoy them.
if any games in their entirety with Orbot and Cubot. Oh,
That's
well, it
fair.
was Colors actually on the DS, and that's it, I think.
Well, and maybe that even gives you a better impression because you don't have to hear the Cubot voice gags. But anyway, that's much further down the line.
Yeah.
Talking about this show, the final element of this show that is very baffling is that we've got these three hedgehogs, all voiced by Jaleel White, by the way, including the girl one.
Yeah, I didn't realize Sonya was voiced by Jaleel White. I think Sonic and Manic he does really well, but Sonya he just does, he strikes out on Sonya.
It's clear that he's got range. I don't know if he's really good at her, but it's weird. I don't know why they didn't just get different people.
Yeah, well, I think it's fine to have him doing Sonic and Manic, and I think he does actually a pretty good job with them.
Well, at the very least, they get different people for the singing parts, which is the final element of this show. Every single episode has a unique song and like music video sequence because their legendary power-up artifacts to be heroes are medallions that give them magic instruments that when they play them either shoot lasers or do plot-specific things, or in Manic's drum case, it causes earthquakes.
I skipped every single one of the songs.
I
Well,
listened to all of them.
Oh, how bad are they?
Well, I have no taste in music to begin with.
Okay, fair enough.
But pretty bland. They're all pretty samey.
I listened to a couple of them, maybe, but thankfully they all have like stupid like music video visual effects going on, which makes it really easy to just skip past them using YouTube's live thumbnail.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. Also, I'd like to point out that they sing at some of the worst possible times.
Oh man,
Yeah.
you'll see in the lightning round episode that the songs literally are a detriment sometimes.
Yeah, it's like
That was so funny. Yeah.
they're in the middle of something important, and it's like, hold on, guys, we gotta sing. It's like, okay, why?
Yeah, so at first I was like, okay, I'll accept this because it's a part of the actual lore that they're singing.
Sure.
But Then it turns out in some episodes it's not. They just do random music parts that don't even exist in the plot.
Right.
And sometimes they do it, when it makes sense. Sometimes they actually sing about the situation. It's, that's kind of like a musical. I get that. That I can respect that a little bit. But sometimes they just sing for no reason. It's kind of all over the place.
So what I hear is, if you've ever seen like the Mario 3 or Mario World cartoons, those all
Right.
have songs in them as well, and allegedly the reason that they were there is so that they can collect royalties on reruns.
Interesting.
I don't know I don't know if that's, explicitly true, but that's what everybody says.
I guess that kind of makes sense.
It's not the reason I expected.
It's same.
I don't know. Let's go ahead and get into the first actual episode here. Episode 1, Beginnings. Queen Alina learns from the Oracle, I think they call him the Oracle of Delphius, that in
Yes.
order to save Mobotropolis from the evil tyranny of Dr. Robotnik, she must give up her 3 children, Sonic the Hedgehog, Manic the Hedgehog, and Sonia the Hedgehog, as babies in order to fulfill a prophecy into becoming the Council of Four. The history of the 3 Hedgehogs uprising as infants into teenhood are told, as well as the formation of the rebel group, the Sonic Underground. Oh, that's just because so one thing that's weird is that this 3-part introductory sequence is told out of order on the actual broadcast.
The ordering of all these Sonic shows weirds me out.
Well, so Sad
Yeah.
AM mostly makes sense, other than the pilot being aired like at the end of the first season.
Yeah, but it also could have gone anywhere. So Sad AM
Right.
is clean. Adventures of Sonic, it also doesn't matter that much. You probably should have put the Chaos Emerald stuff at the end as like a
Right.
quote-unquote finale, but it's not like it really concludes any arc. In this case, though, yeah, you split up the origin story, which is not told in a flashback like it is in Adventures of Sonic. It's just there.
Yeah, no, I think I mentioned this before we started recording, that I was strained. It was weirded out by a show that clearly had at least a semi overarching plot and had arcs, was aired out of order and had arcs split up for no apparent reason.
Yeah. I don't have a
it.
real answer. But anyway, this actual episode, we get to see the childhood of Sonic, Manic, and Sonia. We get a brief glimpse. Well, yeah, we get a look at what Mobius is like in this continuity.
Yeah, so we touched on it, but my first reactions watching this are, what? There's so much stuff that is also in Sat AM.
Yes.
Robotnik's got their Sat AM design, although they've got a very different voice. That's just
Yeah, Robotnik
sort of
in the show is
different
voiced
direction.
by Gary Chalk, who voices Grounder, actually. And
Which is
Oh,
actually
really?
really neat. I think that's cool.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I
and
didn't know that. I think he does a
he's
good
doing
job
his
as
best.
Robotnik as well.
yeah, he's doing fine.
Yeah, he's doing good enough as Robotnik, and he's a fun Robotnik, not like the actually intimidating Robotnik from Sad AM. But I
He's
still
okay.
think he's more fun than Adventures, because eventually I just found Adventures Robotnik annoying.
Well, I'm just biased towards the character in any incarnation.
Oh,
But
I
I
mean,
think
yeah.
this version more fits the mood.
It
while
does.
Yeah.
retaining the basic
Yeah,
design.
but so this show is built out of broken pieces of Sat AM. You'll see some backgrounds reused. Robotnik's base obviously looks exactly the same as the Robotropolis capital in Sat
Right.
AM. There's a statue of King Acorn, despite him not being in the show.
Yeah, that was
The
strange.
lore implications for that confuse me. Were they potentially a ruler from a previous generation, or are they the king? Because they never mention the king in this show.
I have a feeling, I don't know how true it is, but I have a feeling this show evolved out of the canceled third season, and that's why there's a lot of clear connections to
Oh yeah.
stuff from Sat AM. I
think that's very fair.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
they
think-
even do the Knuckles stuff that I think that if they did Sat AM Knuckles, it would be better than the ones in this show, but it would be similar. But other Sat AM stuff, like we got Uncle Chuck is in this show for all of like 5 minutes.
and god damn it, he gets roboticized again.
Oh my gosh! I was so excited to see Chuck in this episode. I was
Yeah.
like, what the heck? I didn't even know he was in this show. It wasn't in any of the episodes. that I saw as a kid because he's only in this one, and it was so sad. He never
Right.
shows up again. Presumably he would have if the show wasn't canceled.
Yeah.
Was. I don't think that was mentioned yet.
This
just
one I
have a
understand a
lot.
little bit more because they had 40 episodes and they did not use them for very much. That's why we're only reviewing like 9 of them today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, on the one
Um,
hand, there's this epic quest and stuff, and there's potential, but they do nothing in 40 episodes. So, yeah.
Yeah, but so Uncle Chuck gets roboticized. Sonic's foster parents, I guess. I assume they get roboticized, but I don't think we ever see them roboticized.
I mean, for all we know, they could have just been fucking murked.
Yeah. Well, they do burn his house down.
True enough.
Yeah. So Sonic was raised by just like a lumberjack, I guess, and his wife out in the woods. Manic was raised by thieves in the city,
My
including
mistake.
by Farrell, I think the guy's name, who is
Yeah.
like he's like a bugman, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Which this is going to be a recurring thing. But the character designs for characters that are not Sega characters in the show are butt ugly.
Yeah,
like,
kind of.
They just look like mostly they look like gross aliens. None of them look like Sonic characters. Is the main thing.
I have no eye for such things, but after watching through all the adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog, I'm also kind of blinded to it.
Fair, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why these thieves just decided to steal a baby and raise it as their own.
You wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
Oh,
Not when you're a
damn.
thief. I guess their plan would have worked pretty well. They wanted to raise them as a thief to, I guess, to help them.
Yeah.
It's my only guess.
I guess. I mean,
But then they were part of a prophecy too, and Robotnik went after them, which leads me into, so that Oracle, right? They're a strange character. I have questions about them, but for some reason they decide, oh yeah, let's tell Robotnik about the prophecy in this odd sequence where he's like, oh yeah, I'll just teleport in and I'll like freeze him with my magic and be like, no, you are going down one day, and then I'll just leave. Like, I don't get it. If the Oracle can do that.
You're making the bad part of the prophecy happen by doing that.
Also, the Oracle seems like they could help a lot more than they do, but that's kind of typical of that sort of character, I suppose.
That is very true.
But basically, this is all just a backstory where everybody has their foster parents or whoever, which all end up getting roboticized or maybe killed. I don't know what the nature of Chuck's existence is in this show. If Sonic was supposedly adopted, is he related to Alina?
I would assume so. And like maybe Chuck searched out for Sonic, but that would also, why wouldn't he look for Manic and Sonia as well?
I don't know. Maybe it's like an Obi-Wan Kenobi situation.
He just happened to live close.
Well, so because even though Chuck is only in this one episode, I still have to believe they're awesome. So my headcanon, because you can see they've got a similar sort of a base like they do in Sat AM. They're just not roboticized, which means they're even cooler in this version until they do get roboticized later. But it seems like they've still got some sort of undercover mission going, and I'd have to imagine that like basically they were like, I'm gonna go and spy on Robotnik and stuff, and I'm sorry, I'm not gonna really be able to raise this child, so they gave him to other friends of the family or distant relatives or something instead, and he only took Sonic when they got yoinked.
I guess so.
That's a fair, yeah. Speaking of getting yoinked, what's up with roboticization in this show? It only turns you like part cyborg instead of a full mech.
It's more like a cyborgification.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's they joined the Borg.
Yeah, honestly.
I mean, it's a little jarring coming off of Sat AM, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, I guess, just a different thing about this show.
Right.
Honestly,
except for when it's not, because sometimes there are full casing roboticizations, so we can't win.
Exception, yes.
Yeah,
and that is strange.
It seems like the majority are like this cyborg, are the Borgified.
Burger King. Yeah, we get our characters. They all go through childhood trauma, and eventually they meet up in like some bar. Is that this episode or is that the next one?
I think it's the end of this episode.
Yeah. And they've all got magic medallions to turn into instruments, etc.
It's funny, because at the end of this episode, the Oracle is like, oh, I'm so sorry, all your families have been roboticized. And, like, for like half a second, Sonic Manic, and Sonia um,
You're
are
just
all
thinking about something
sad.
that's a lot better quality.
You're the fourth
Uh,
Sonic sibling, Mania.
Aha, yes. Um, anyway, they're all sad for like half a second, and then the Oracle is like, "But wait a minute, you have medallions," and then instantly they seem to forget about that, and are like, "Oh, these are so cool!" Like, I would feel like they would have been hit harder by that.
Listen, it's
It's
just
just
par
funny.
for the course in these shows to forget about a parental figure whenever they're not on screen and your name's not Sally.
Right.
Yeah.
That's completely wrong, by the way, but anyway. Yeah, so
Um,
it is, if nothing else, it's not paced terribly. It's not a
Not
terrible first
really.
episode.
no, no, yeah, I think it's pretty decent. It leaves me with a lot of questions that we kind of already talked about at the start, because I'm like, ooh, what are the aristocrats' roles? It seems like they do something, but then when Demir betrays Robotnik, then they get arrested. And yeah, so yeah, it established the setting, and some of the bits kind of confused me a little bit. It would have been decent if they were actually explained later, but for what it is, yeah, I think it's pretty solid. It's good setup.
I think it's overall not bad. A solid like 7 out of 10.
And that continues on to episode 2, Getting to Know You. The Hedgehogs begin to learn the important lessons of what it takes to be a freedom fighter. The Oracle provides teachers to guide Sonic, Manic, and Sonia to develop the necessary skills to recognize the power that comes from within. The Hedgehogs also discover the hidden magical force of the Power Medallions as they grow to understand that teamwork will serve them best in averting the dangers that await them.
So I gotta say, I actually had a lot less to say about this episode. Like, this one's kind of just like a training episode, and not
It's
done in
your
a very interesting way, in my
yeah.
opinion.
It's your average anime training arc.
Which I must say is interesting because you don't usually see Sonic training.
You know what? Sonic's the only one who actually has freedom, sort of freedom fighter experience because he was doing freedom fighter shit with Chuck.
Right.
So
true.
he's the one who needs the least training out of them. And you could claim Manic also might have some similar training from being a thief.
Yeah, he
Right.
just
Yeah.
gets into fights. Well, and that is
Yeah.
the general characterization, is that Sonya is definitely the fish out of water here, where Sonic and Manic,
Right.
they understand street smarts
Street smarts!
a little bit better.
Right. They know
Um,
street smarts because of the way they grew up.
Yeah. We get a little bit more a Sleet and Dingo here, and Dingo has
Yeah.
like some good moments, like him just walking through the wall when they
That was fucking
tell him to go in.
hilarious. That was
he-
hilarious.
He has some not great moments though, because there's a recurring thing in this show where Dingo
yeah.
is like attracted to Sonya because she's.
Yeah.
We're gonna see more of this in the comic, but Sonya's character design is the first instance of Sonic character head on a human woman torso.
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of.
But I have no idea how old she's supposed to be. I mean,
Yeah, I wanted
obviously the
to-
same as Sonic and Manic, who are probably teens, but yeah, that's bad. Not gonna touch on it.
Well,
It's
I
cool.
must say it does lead to one pretty hilarious gag, in my opinion, which is when so initially Dingo is like, oh, very friendly to Sonia, and
Right.
Sonia's like, oh, go get my coat, and then like shoves them down the stairs. But then, showing their idiocy being pretty funny at times, they come back up the stairs later. They're like, oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't find your coat, not even recognizing that they were attacked by them.
I think that part is okay. I just don't like the premise.
The weird attraction to Sonya just feels a little off, but like the other
No, they use it-
like they use
use it
it
for good
funny, but the concept of it is weird.
Yeah.
True.
Anyway, so yeah, I actually don't hate the dynamic between these kids so far. They're like not
Yeah.
constantly bickering, but they're the different upbringings to make a little bit of friction. So anyway, the actual majority of this episode is taken up by weird training arcs. So Lion Man shows up to train kids he's never met. So Sonic
Yeah.
gets to be fast and his spin dash. Sonya gets this like tornado spin attack.
Right.
And Manic, he just gets to twirl and throw drumsticks. He doesn't get superpowers.
He's got the best superpower, actually using a weapon.
Yeah, give him knives.
Because yeah, the other two are using their own bodies. Manic gets to just stay back and throw shit.
I don't have anything to build on that, but at one part it's mentioned that Sonia has a photographic memory. That never comes up again.
Oh,
Yeah, I completely forgot about it because it never comes up again.
I guess that's better than it being a cop-out? I don't know.
I mean, if it's
Because
just
that's the sort of thing that kids shows use as a Deus Ex Machina a lot. Just, oh, I
That's true,
remembered
it is.
something that, is completely improbable.
I don't. Do they even use it in the episode for something?
Well, yes, because
They use
she
it for the map.
remembers the map.
Right, the map. Yeah, so they use it once and then the writers immediately forget about it. I have a feeling this show had a bit of a revolving door of writers.
I'd have to check,
don't
but I
know that
think
that's
you're right.
True.
So, yeah, they got a scroll that teleports them to a monastery, and there's a monk guy that sounds like Yoda, and they get,
Thank
like...
God I wasn't the.
I had the exact same thought.
They get, like, virtual brain mind training or something, or like mystical chakra force or something. I don't know. I have nothing to say about these mentor characters. I will have very little to say about most characters in this show, but
Air.
again, as an anime fan and as a Naruto fan specifically, they can craft a lot of reliable or like interesting pillars out of a mentor character. But that's clearly not in this show's priorities, but it's like...
I don't get the show's priorities.
This show doesn't
Fair
seem to
enough.
have priorities besides music and bad spots.
Right. I forgot to mention earlier, so I'm just going to bring it up now. Yeah, I should have brought it up in episode 1. One of the main reasons that I actually like Sleet a lot is their great voice that I can't do at all, but they got a kind of a
Oh,
Oh,
I
yes.
love that actor. I'm trying
I
to
don't
remember
know.
his name. It's Maurice LaMarche. He's only been in a billion things.
I don't remember his name, but I looked it up. The reason I recognized him at least is because he voices the brain, and I was like, that's why, because he's basically doing the same voice.
Because it's got a little bit of that Peter Lorre inflection. And he's of course also I know him best as Kif from Futurama. And I like him on that
yeah.
show because despite being a green alien, he's easily the most normal guy in the cast.
That's probably the other place I recognized him from.
Plus, he goes out with Amy, who is objectively the hottest girl on that show. Anyway, yeah, so
But-
episode 2, songs suck, boring training, etc. Episode 3, Harmony or something. Sonic, Manic, and Sonia must end their training early when Robotnik threatens the Oracle and takes a member of the Resistance hostage. During the rescue mission, the Hedgehogs fall into trouble and begin to place blame on each other for everything that's gone awry. Queen Alina then intervenes with an important message for her children that they must learn to work together and derive strength from their willingness to help others.
Yeah, teamwork.
And also, yeah, Mom communicating with us when the opening stresses that actually I can't communicate with them or else they die.
That is a good point.
The worst followed rule in this entire show is that she can't intervene because she does it almost every time that she actually has a role in an episode.
Yeah, I don't get it. I could rant on it forever, and it's kind of pointless too. But yeah, the rules of the prophecy seem super artificial. It's like, oh, you gotta follow them just to follow them because that's how it's been prophesied. There's no actual logic to it. It's just like the Oracle says so do it.
Yeah.
I'm guessing what it's more supposed to mean is that she cannot come in direct contact with them. She can still communicate with them.
Here's the
I
thing, though.
guess.
She does at one point, albeit when one of them is unconscious, but she...
Oh, well, fuck me then.
No, thank you, but,
And
God damn it.
yeah, and even if she could communicate with them, she doesn't do it very extensively. So it seems more like I'm breaking the rules, but shh, the Oracle's not watching.
That makes more sense.
yeah.
It's very obvious from the opening that she doesn't want to be apart from her children, but she has to. So she can't really stick to the rules. Which also, I should mention at some point, to try to give some sort of like overarching thing to the show, it fails. But they have a little bit of narration from Aline at the beginning of every episode, which is kind of interesting. It would really help to tie things together if there was some sort of progression, like, sort of where things are going. But instead, it's just like, oh, now we have to learn this random lesson, and it doesn't really matter.
This episode specifically, it's like, there's a couple things, like the monk guy who sounds like Yoda actually has a thousand voices cried out moments.
Yeah.
He also says your training is incomplete. You're not ready to leave, which is also a Yoda thing.
Oh, so that didn't really dawn on me that he is actually just a Yoda clone.
100%.
Listen, I'd be more upset about this, but this is the first episode to properly establish that this show is pro-theft. This is going to be a recurring thing that we talk about, especially in the Lightning Round episode. But Manic, grew up as a thief, knows how to steal stuff, and Sonic occasionally scolds him for stealing, but every single time in this show that Manic is stealing something from anybody, it turns out to be justified.
Right, there's a reason for him to do it.
Well, it's either justified or it's harmless enough. There are some
Yeah.
times he does it for no reason.
Well, alrighty then.
Oh yeah, so I'm just like, I can't believe that it's not just Sat AM because Sonia calls Sonic Hedgehog in this show just like Sally does in Sat
Yeah,
AM, and I'm like, what the heck?
that was kind of odd.
Well, and if we're going with the King Acorn is their dad narrative, then that creates a kind of a weird dynamic if Sonia is the replacement Sally.
I almost said that, but I didn't because it doesn't make so much sense.
It doesn't really.
I don't know
So-
how parental to child species relationships work in this universe.
Well, they always have to be separated. That's how it works.
Yeah, I suppose.
So guys, you want to talk about Bartleby?
Yeah, why
Fucking
is Sonia
Bartleby.
engaged, and why is it to this fucking lumpkin?
So
Bartleby-
first of all,
Bartleby is a character that I have like a love-hate relationship with because on the one hand, his archetype of a snooty aristocrat who's also incredibly pathetic is ripe for good applications of comedy. On the other hand, he's a complete douche, and I have no idea why they treat him like an ally at any point, because he is mostly willing to sell your soul to Satan for one corn chip.
It's like Mr. Krabs selling SpongeBob's soul for, what was it, 68 cents?
62 cents.
Yeah, something like that.
so he is definitely like that sometimes, but he varies. On the other hand, he's very justified at other moments. There's actually a really great moment between Bartleby and Robotnik in this one, which shows that the Robotnik in Underground is perfectly capable of being menacing, just like in Sat AM. Because he talks to Bartleby, and he's talking about something, and then the roboticized Lady Wendermere walks over, and Bartleby is, like, unnerved, like, I don't think he realized that she was roboticized, and they're, like,
Oh,
acquaintances,
yeah.
right? And he's like, what? And then Robotnik's like, oh, yeah, she opposed me. That's in such poor taste. Don't you agree, Bartleby?
That is a good scene. That is a really good scene.
Yeah.
So in that instance, I think he's going with Robotnik because he has to.
Fair.
Yeah, but he also clearly believes in a lot of Robotnik's creed is the thing for me.
I mean, in a later episode,
Yeah.
because he gets a sort of an episode to himself, he
Hmm.
sort of puts it as it would be pointless to resist him. So he sort of, if you can't beat him, join him, sort of a thing.
I
Right.
guess, but Robotnik also enables him to keep living a life of luxury, and he clearly appreciates that life.
That is true.
True.
No, he's not. You can't excuse everything, but he's not. Yeah, he's a little. He's a mix.
He's an excellent morally gray character.
Right.
All right.
I also have to say that so Trevor is a captured resistance member.
Is
in
he the
this.
one who kind of dresses like a beatnik?
He's just like he's like a hippie.
Yeah.
Okay.
I must say that the interrogation setup is actually pretty horrifying in this. Like, this show isn't nearly as dark as Sat AM, but he's like rigged up with wires, and he looks like exhausted, like just swaying a little
Oh,
bit
yeah.
back and forth. And I'm like, whoa, that's actually a pretty freaky visual.
It feels almost a little tonally off from the rest of the show.
Yeah, no, exactly.
It's weird.
Dingo not quite seeing Sonia as an enemy is hilarious because at one part, Sonia like fires their gun piano, and Dingo was like, "Nice shot, Sonia," and it just caught me completely off guard.
Mm,
I like gun piano. I think it's a keytar technically, but
no, gun piano is better.
A few times, this show is actually surprisingly like put together in a way where I can question something, and I was meant to question it. So, Robotnik goes after the Oracle in this episode, which, first of all, good on them. They actually realize the Oracle is a real threat, even though most of the time he doesn't actually do stuff, even though he totally could.
Right.
But I'm like, how the heck could he be captured? That he's like, he's got way too much magical skills. He could just teleport away or something. And that is actually acknowledged at the end of the episode, where the Oracle's like, "Oh yeah, no, I didn't need any help from Sonic, the Sonic Trio or whatever, but it was just a test to,
yeah,
build
I just
up
wanted to make
that-
sure you guys were willing to put yourselves in danger for me.
Right,
Yeah.
there you go. So that kind of impressed me a little bit. This show has moments like that where I'm like, oh, okay, good job. But overall, not quite.
So one of my notes is just, is their hair also Quill? I think this is talking about Queen Elena, like specifically, or maybe Sonya. I'm not 100% sure.
Listen,
But-
that is a far deeper question than Underground could ever answer.
Oh no.
That's a
think
question
I'm-
that speaks to the very soul of Sonic as a property.
I think
Oh,
I might have been
no.
I think I might have been a little sleep deprived when I wrote that down.
There's no way to know. Alright, Origins Trilogy is pretty alright. Now we move
Yeah.
on to episode 19. Yes, we are going ahead 16 episodes. Friend or Foe? The Hedgehogs converge on the floating island in their latest attempt to find their mother. Sleet and Dingo also have an interest in this island that involves the Chaos Emerald, which is the island's life force. But before either party can achieve their goals, they have to get through Knuckles, the floating island's stern guardian.
Heck yeah, we get to see Knuckles in one of
Yeah,
these shows.
and he's got mediocre voice acting.
Oh, I
Yeah,
don't know.
that's-
He's yeah, no, actually, I'll cop. He's not great. It's weird though, because it's Brian Drummond, and I like Brian Drummond. He's been in plenty of things that I think are good.
Yeah, so I
it
could
would-
not. I recognize the name, but I cannot figure out where I recognize his name from.
Same boat here.
Well, I'm trying to think what would I know him for best, and it's like, well, Ocean Dub Vegeta because of memes. This is the guy
Right,
who said
that's-
over 9,000.
I guess, to be fair, that's where I recognize
uh-huh.
him from as well.
I would, for me personally, Highway 35, Hot Wheels, The World Race, he voices the legendary Kurt Wilde, but I think that that's something that generally pertains more to people who grew up with old Hot Wheels cartoons and not people that just watch TV.
I think I grew up with like the last Hot Wheels cartoon, so fair enough.
Well, I suppose if you're a fan of Death Note, then he voices the demon Ryuk in that.
I cannot say I've ever watched Death Note. It's got to be Ocean Dub Vegeta that I recognize him as.
Anyway, but yes, Knuckles is in this.
Yes, and
He's
Other than
just as he's
mad
even more
voice
nasally
acting?
than OVA Knuckles.
Yeah, I must say, seeing him in Underground sort of trained me, and then he didn't sound weird in the OVA to me, so maybe the inverse works too, a little.
Yeah. Actually, Brian Drummond is doing a voice in Sonic Prime whenever that's coming out, because that also has Canadian dubcast.
I did see that. I'm curious to see who he's voicing.
Maybe it's Knuckles again.
That would
probably
be
not.
funny.
Knuckles has a pet dinosaur in this show.
Yes, and I love the pet dinosaur. I did.
He makes weird, like, human dog noises.
He does, and I thought it was really cute for some reason.
Sure, okay.
Other than that, I mean,
Yeah, they do the Angel Island shebang, He's tricked
Except-
into thinking that Sonic is here to steal the emerald with a hilariously, like, stilted hologram performance.
yeah.
Oh my gosh. The way the fake Sonia says, "You are not often right, older brother, but on this occasion I agree," is hilarious.
We gotta find those emeralds.
That's a pretty good part. But yeah, it's, the classic Knuckles gets tricked, Sonic the Hedgehog 3-esque plot.
Well, so I guess it's sort of explained later that there are more Chaos Emeralds, but they introduce this as if it's the only Chaos Emerald, and then put in the same role as the Master Emerald.
This is a thing in a lot of old Sonic stuff. You're gonna have your mind blown by the Archie comics and how they try to handle this.
Oh my god, okay.
Is that they don't understand the difference between the Chaos Emeralds and the Master Emerald.
Okay, alright.
Or the Super Emeralds, frankly. Those ones are even weirder.
Alright.
But yeah, no, they think that Angel Island is powered by exactly one Chaos Emerald and all Chaos Emeralds are green. That's par for the course.
Alright. That just kind of bothered me.
No, yeah, me too. And much of the time, I don't really care about game inconsistencies versus shows. But in this one instance, I was like, would have killed them to just call it the Master Emerald. I guess they really just didn't do their research at all.
It's pretty clear that I don't think anyone working on really any of the cartoons did any research from the games, and in Sad AM that worked by making an actually interesting world. But the other two, it's like, oh, let's just take random things from the games and just throw them on, and that method can work, but most of the time it doesn't.
Moving on from that, let's talk about Sonic and Knuckles' fights.
Knuckles has this really weird technique where he spins his arms super fast and they become like saws or something. It's really strange.
Yeah, what was up with that? That was weird.
I think he's literally doing the I'm going to do this with my arms, and if you get hit, it's your own fault kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. And frankly, that's the least of my problems with this fight, because what the hell is going on with the animations? Things are just... It is broken for this sequence.
Yeah, the animation kind of falls apart in this
The animation across the entire show is pretty inconsistent. Lauren was talking about how, they would accidentally color Sonic's arms blue sometimes in Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. In this show, it is all the time.
Yeah, I hate it.
Yeah, it is.
And the weird thing is, I never once saw them color Manix's arms green, so like...
And Sonia's arms are
that's
already
like they're
magenta.
doing it on purpose.
And there's so many drawings that are just like not quite right. And there's this tendency for them to draw Sonic, especially with like the sweet bro hella Jeff mouth that's like a Y-shaped pork chop. It just doesn't look right.
I'm randomly reminded, this isn't quite on topic, but it's just weird things. I appreciate, even if it's a weird sequence, I appreciate that it's like they didn't do the research, but they at least realized, yes, the Sonic and Knuckles rivalry must be there. Step aside, Sonya and Manic. We were going to fight 1v1.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
And then you'll...
No matter where Knuckles is,
you'll sort of float backwards off the side of a cliff, and I'll catch you.
Right.
and then as I pull you up, you gradually get smaller and smaller for no reason.
Yes.
That's one of the most iconic gifs of this show, is Sonic putting his arm on Knuckles' shoulder, and Knuckles is teeny tiny.
Perspective.
It's so weird.
There are a few moments like this, but I forgot to document any of them, except in this episode, Sleet and Dingo actually channel Scratch and Grounder energy, as there's this whole sequence where they're trying to answer Robotnik's communicator, but through like dumb hijinks, they fail to do it for like a solid minute or two.
Yeah,
like
and you know what?
Your
It's
phone is
funnier.
going off and you like hot potato it when you're just trying to catch it.
Right.
You know what? Also, it's funnier with Sleet and Dingo than it would be with Scratch and Grounder.
Well, I mean, yeah, they're better characters to start, and also
Right.
that trope, I guess, is used much less often in this show.
Yeah, more proof Scratch and Grounder are shit, and
Yeah. Say it.
I'm gonna... you guys aren't gonna be the ones ending up with mobs at your house.
Oh, come at me.
The epic
Yeah, fucking
Grounder
come at me.
stands are all gonna come for me.
fuck up. They can come for me.
Episode 23, 3 Hedgehogs and a Baby. Sonic,
Oh,
Manic, and
boy.
Sonia find an abandoned baby in an alley and begin a search for the baby's parents. Manic grows particularly fond of the child and decides that instead of taking the baby to a shelter as Sonic and Sonia ordered, the baby would be more comfortable at the underground sanctuary. Unbeknownst to the Hedgehogs, the baby is a robot spy camera made by Robotnik, and Robotnik is counting on them taking the baby to Sanctuary so he can wipe it out.
Yeah,
This is
so
the
Yeah.
exploding baby episode.
that's why
More-
it's here.
More like 6 feet underground.
Yeah, so Sanctuary, surprisingly, is actually a returning concept from a previous episode. This show has a bit of light continuity between the episodes that don't, obviously, that are not multi-parters. It's just weird. It's like they tried, but they didn't really try that hard.
So my question then is it actually an episode that aired before it, or an episode that was that's before it in continuity?
In continuity, obviously. I don't know
Yeah,
about
okay.
airing order.
Fair, yeah.
I'm gonna say I think so, but I don't remember. I have literally nothing to say about this. I hate baby episodes in cartoons. I do like this one because the baby is a robot which explodes. And that, from Manic's perspective, he just watched a child burst into bits, but he is immediately over it once they're like, oh, hey, Manic, what's going on? Oh, that was a fake.
Yeah, you think that'd be really traumatic for Manic, because he just developed this bond with the baby, and just to watch it fucking explode.
And it's like, yes, it's a robot, but it's like, those emotions were still real. You should probably still be left with some kind of lingering... I guess trust issues would be the big one.
He even named it. I can't remember what he named it, but he named it.
I'll put it up on screen.
Oh, he named it Hip.
Alrighty.
Yeah, immediately remembering, baby.
Oh, yeah. So the Alina dialogue at the beginning basically amounts to, I hate this situation. And that's it. They're like,
Yeah.
there are times when you'll long for your children, and they're just like, yeah, I do, mine as well. And that's like how they end it. There's no like lesson or anything. It's just funny.
I'm imagining these episodes are like Queen Alina, like dictating her thoughts on what happened back to someone, and that's why a lot of them don't make any sense, because she was only there for she was only observing like part of the episode, so she just bullshit the rest of it.
An episode just starts with like her reading her grocery list.
So I don't get why, since this baby is designed by Robotnik and Robotnik hates music, why the baby likes music.
Maybe Robotnik's back.
Robotnik hates music, but he knows that other people like it, so he can program something that acts like it likes it.
Well, they
True.
can control the baby on the fly, and when they're observing it, they're like, "Oh no, not the music." So like, just make it cry or something.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know.
No, it's cool, because I feel like Robotnik isn't that stupid, though. He knows that he wants to get the baby to get endeared by at least one of the hedgehogs. So what's the best way to do that? Make it like music, because these three inexplicably are in a band.
Fair enough, that makes sense.
Now the real question is why, when they do play music, why that doesn't just make it explode like all the other robots.
Right.
Robotnik's better at making stronger small robots.
No Metal Sonic in this show, though.
Yeah, I
Fair.
guess that's true.
I think he deserves to be spared from this one.
On the topic of Robotnik, there's this bit where Robotnik captures Sonic and Sonia, and that's perfectly in character to gloat to them, but he doesn't even bother to disarm them. He's so, like, unusually overconfident. He's like, oh, you can't use your guns to shoot, like, out of your bonds. Like, yeah, you try that. And then they just, like, disable it by disabling, like, the power generator or something. I'm like, that was stupid even for Robotnik.
Yeah. Episode 27, 6 is a Crowd. The Oracle advises the Hedgehogs to undertake a mission which could reveal answers about their future. Sonic, Manic, and Sonia are thrown into a universe that seems almost parallel to their own. However, in this dimension, they're not the Underground. The Hedgehogs are the rulers of Mobius. Confused by this, they begin to explore and suddenly find themselves confronted by corrupted versions of themselves.
I was concerned at first this was a time travel episode.
Oh, they discover that they're doomed to become despots?
No, I thought this was going to be like a. For some reason, I thought this was going to be a time travel episode in the same vein as like Sad AMs. Before I realized, hold on a second, that doesn't make any sense because we already saw the background.
No,
But-
this is actually a sequel to When in Rome, another episode that comes before this, which has a similar sort of a structure where the gang goes to the Oracle and the Oracle sends them to an imaginary world as part of a test.
Testing what exactly? Who knows?
Yeah. If they can bear to wait out how long this show would have taken to actually get to the plot, and they couldn't. That's why they never finished it.
So, Evil Sonic is fat. Evil Sonia has a louder outfit, and Evil Manic is exactly the same because they couldn't think of a trope for him.
No, he just likes taxes, whereas regular Manic is a libertarian. I'm just gonna piss off every group this episode.
Good.
Good job. Yeah, so I'm not like this often, but let's put on for this show. Well, maybe I am. No, I'm gonna scrutinize the details and be like, so the alternate Sonic and alternate Sonia don't have medallions, but for some strange reason, the anti Manic does have a medallion, which makes me wonder why that is.
I didn't notice that.
Because at first I would think, oh, they don't. There's no prophecy or anything at all, but Manic is the odd one out. So it's like perhaps
maybe Manic from this universe is also from another, or Manic in this universe is also from an alternate universe.
Yo,
Oh, no.
okay. Evil Sonic and Evil Sonia are both robot doubles, and Evil Manic is actually Scourge, pretending to be Manic. Because they're already green, and they've already got identical vocal cords to Sonic because they're Jaleel White.
Oh my god.
that sounds like. So in the comics when there'll be a wacky episode and characters you never think will come back, and then they come back like 100 issues later, but they've changed them completely. That's what would happen if there was a sequel episode to this, like 80 episodes later, if this show went on, and they'd suddenly recontextualize everything.
Yeah. with another comic character they didn't get permission to use, but we're not quite there yet.
But yes, you must be 100% correct. I agree with that judgment.
Objectively, there is no proof that I am wrong.
That is very true.
I will say, even though the Oracle kind of annoys me, they have a moment where they're a complete savage, because Sonic is like, "Do you ever just give a straight answer?" And they're like, "What do you think?"
That was a pretty funny scene.
You bitch.
Oh yeah, at the beginning of the episode, I like their cold weather outfits. They're I don't know why, but they're visually nice.
It's
I like
actually
when a
used in
show
number
can
of
dress its
episodes in
characters
this
for the
show.
weather.
Oh yeah, Sonic just fires like all of the SWAT bots in the castle,
That was pretty funny.
and then there's more for some reason.
Well, because Robotnik's still here, but he has hair, and he's like, what is he, a janitor?
He's the head of the Resistance.
Yeah.
Oh, what am I thinking of?
What is he, a janitor? No, he's fucking a lot more important.
Listen,
I'm thinking about like what?
My mind is so poisoned by stupid Archie alternate universes that I am convinced there is at least one of them where Robotnik is a janitor, but I don't remember which.
Well, we'll see in the future.
Yeah, it's only a few episodes from now.
Oh, God help us all.
Yeah, this alternate universe doesn't quite hold together too well. It's obviously meant to just kind of be ridiculous, because like the evil Hedgehog trio is evil to a comical extent in this.
Yes.
There's this great moment when Sonic hears there's music in Sector 3, and they're just like, destroy Sector 3!
Sector 3. That is so absurdly comically evil. But like, they're almost immediately have their minds changed or whatever about the way they rule, because as Robotnik mentioned, they haven't left the castle in years. So once they're forced to leave, they see the kind of shitty world they're ruling, they're like, well, shit, we gotta change this.
It's like when you get quarantine brain.
Yeah, so honestly, I mean, it's not meant to be serious, but I don't find that believable at all. Because they literally had, at one point in the episode, unless I'm remembering completely wrong, citizens in front of them, like, begging mercy, and they're like, no, throw them in the dungeon! So, like, there was
Yeah, they
obvious
did.
evidence in front of them that they were not making a nice place.
Oh yeah, no, it's a stupid episode, but like it's kind of fun just because of how absurdly evil.
No, yeah, I agree. It's not meant to be taken seriously.
Yeah, no, it's totally not meant to be taken seriously. But god damn it, it is fun.
True, I have to agree.
And speaking of fun, we have some fun in the sun at the start of episode 28, Flying Fortress. What's supposed to be a vacation for Sonic, Manic, and Sonia turns into a battle to save Mobius when Robotnik attacks with his newest weapon, the Flying Fortress. Sonic investigates the ship, thinking the weapon can be destroyed by removing its reactor. However, his efforts fail, and he goes to Knuckles for help because he believes the weapon is powered by a Chaos Emerald. Or the Chaos Emerald, as the description says.
Yeah, there's actually more than one Chaos Emerald. So the
Yeah.
description is wrong again!
Haha.
Yeah, well, at least it's wrong in less words than some of the really long SAT AM ones.
Right.
So we've got the Fortress of Altitude here from well, I was gonna say it reminds me of a couple different Robotnik flying fortresses, but it's not really any of them. At first I thought it was most like the Fire Breath from Sonic 3, which is not a fortress, but is the most similar looking.
I mean, to me, it's like a miniature death egg. I mean, this thing is a menace.
It really is.
Yeah.
Literally, and okay, so it gets better in the later parts, but this first part of this saga already starts to show like some payoff finally. Like, man, what is it with these shows? And the writers are like, I'm just gonna make a bunch of random dumb stuff, and then I'm gonna try really hard for like a few, by comparison, for just a few episodes and make an actual story. But anyway, so Robotnik makes this flying fortress, and Sleet and Dingo are like, oh wow, this is great, sir. And he's like, shut up, I don't need you anymore, you idiots. And I'm like, finally. He realizes, they've failed a million times.
Yeah, they kind of continue their acts of sedition against Robotnik, which don't end up sticking, but they make it look like it will.
It does for this glorious 3 episodes, at least.
Yeah. And so, yeah, we got more of Knuckles. He somehow just kind of builds a plane and chaos energy tracker, which I didn't know those were within Knuckles' skill set.
I feel like he probably already had the Chaos Emerald tracker.
I guess, but I was going to say, where did he get it? And I guess the coward's answer would be Athair, because Knuckles' great-grandfather Athair from the Archie comics is here and looks nothing like he does in those comics.
Oh, okay.
In the Archie comics, Athair is like this weird shaman who's kind of wrinkly and lumpy, and I actually kind of like him. He's one of the more unique Echidna designs in that. Here, he's just a guy with glasses and a robe.
He's also, like, aggressively Scottish.
He has, like, a weird Sean Connery impression.
Yes! Okay, thank you. I'm glad I'm not the only one to immediately notice the Sean Connery comparison in his voice.
Yeah, the Knuckles building a plane and having an emerald tracker is a weird thing. But I mean, in a much larger sense, did you not notice? So, okay, first of all, the trio of hedgehogs decide, oh yeah, let's fly over to their island on a reprogrammed robot instead of our handy hovercraft that we used last time. I don't get that, but then Knuckles is like radioing and it has like defense systems on the island. So he's got this whole place decked out suddenly.
Yeah, he's got like an anti-aircraft gun.
Well, Angel Island does have gadgets on it. I don't know if they're all Robotniks in Sonic 3, but I mean, he's got the destroy the bridge button and the fling Sonic into the air with the wind button.
Okay, yes, but he doesn't have anti-aircraft cannons.
Not to my knowledge, no.
So yeah, actually, I hadn't thought of that. I guess I always assumed those were things like set up by Robotnik
I guess, but then Robotnik didn't like build the Carnival Night Zone. That was just on Angel Island, so
Wait,
I think so.
that I'm not saying you're wrong, but that's contrary to my intuition.
yeah, why would Casino Night Zone just be on Angel Island?
There's no one there.
Does Knuckles just need to gamble for no reason?
Private gigantic casino for Knuckles.
Well, it's not a casino. I don't know. I guess maybe I'm wrong. I know Eggman built Launch Base, but
It's not. I mean, it's probably stated somewhere, but it's definitely not stated in the game, and probably not. I mean, maybe it's stated in the manual. I never read the manuals.
I don't know.
Anyway, how did we get on this? Oh yeah, so I know. Yeah. I was surprised by the anti-aircraft weaponry, at least.
Yeah, so was I. I was not expecting him to suddenly pull out some fucking anti-aircraft cannons.
Well, yeah. In any case, at least it's good to have Knuckles back on the team because, well, we need something Sonic-y after this many episodes of whatever.
Yeah, it's nice that Knuckles gets to do some stuff or more stuff.
Have them building up to an actual story. You gotta go get that Chaos Emerald. You know, there are stakes. Again, that flying fortress. Man, there's this funny part where Robotnik is like, basically kill the hedgehogs and like firebombs a whole forest, but leaves their van unscathed for some reason.
You know.
The van had a fire shield.
Right. As the fortress is clearly going to, or maybe it's not when it's apparent. Either way, you know that it's going to go down in a second because the heroes are all running after the emerald, and you're like, okay, it's going to, they're going to save the day. But then Sleet is like, hey, Dingo, I have an idea. So Robotnik thinks they don't need us anymore. Ha! I'm going to show how clever I am, and I'm going to make myself useful. I'm going to take this emerald because Robotnik didn't bother to... Well, no, he does shoot away the guards. He isn't expecting, I guess, a betrayal from them. But then they steal the Chaos Emerald away, and then the heroes are like, huh? Wait a second. Huh? And then the whole fortress goes down, and you get this to be continued as, like, Sleet is flying away laughing or whatever. And I'm just like, what's going on?
It's a weird compare. I don't know what to compare it to a show that is just mostly bullshit and then goes really hard randomly for just a few episodes.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's like Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, they're even both the Chaos Emerald episodes.
That's true. That's true.
All right,
we'll see, the concept of the Chaos Emerald is quite a bit different in both from the games and from that in this show. But yeah, we're ready to move on.
And we'll see exactly what that emerald is like in episode 29, No Hedgehog is an Island. Sleet and Dingo escape the flying fortress with the Chaos Emerald. In a fight over who will control the emerald's power, they drop it and break the emerald in two. Instantly, a rash of earthquakes and other natural disasters are sparked by the emerald's energy. Knuckles and the Hedgehogs turn to a relative of Knuckles for answers on how to stop Mobius from being slowly devoured by the emerald's force.
I wasn't expecting this at all, but I kind of dig how this saga turns from Robotnik's got this terrible weapon to we've unleashed forces of chaos and the whole world is going to be destroyed. It like dials up to 11 really quickly.
That goes into one of the things I actually really liked about how the emeralds are portrayed in this show. I like that it's almost like the emeralds themselves are just like containers for raw chaos energy.
Exactly. Yeah.
And the moment they're broken, it just goes insane.
So yeah, that's sort of the set piece. That's the main conflict thing. But the way we get into that is pretty neat because, well, first I have to mention it's cool to see Robotnik like panicking as the flying fortress is falling down, because it's not often you see him having to like on his own sort of recover from a defeat. Usually you cut off before then, but you see him having to do that for a minute, so that's kind of cool. Then you get. Well, first of all, you get a funny line as the heroes are escaping, where Knuckles is like, I don't want to jump down the garbage chute and get all sliced up. But then Sonia is like, don't worry, Robotnik would never recycle his garbage. And I'm like, yes, that is both hilarious and very
he doesn't
fitting.
Crush his trash because he'd rather dump it.
That is very in character, and I fucking love it.
So Sleet has the emerald, and he's like gonna do something. I'm not sure. I think I think he's gonna try to use it himself, actually. But then Dingo is like, oh, wait a minute. So you're saying if you have that emerald, then you can just rule the world? And Sleet's like, well, yes. And he's like, oh, okay. And he just grabs it from him and just jumps away, which is awesome because Dingo. Okay, there are little bits here and there throughout the whole show. The payoff is so much stronger if you've seen all the other episodes up until this point. It doesn't make it worth it, but it's consolation. So Dingo is constantly abused by Sleet through the show because he's forcibly transformed into stupid transformations all the time. But there are a few bits where he's like, like, I'll get you one day, Sleet. And so when he finally does it and pulls a fast one on him, so good. I love it.
Yeah, I can imagine. It was not, I mean, even just the episodes I watched, it was nice seeing that because I don't want to say he deserved it because he's still trying
he's still
to
a
become,
bastard,
like,
but it's a little bit satisfying because Sleet deserves to get smacked around a bit or upstage.
Yeah. But, Dingo isn't really cut out for the role, so he just drops it immediately, and then the whole world's going to get destroyed. Still.
Yeah.
That's about right, but it's cool.
And yeah, so they do go to, well, they sort of go to, they get help from Aether, who is, again, not really like Aether at all. It's just kind of wise man Echidna number 7, but I don't know. I just feel important to note his presence because there was so much legal stuff surrounding Archie Comics characters, especially Echidna's, that this guy showing up is just like, what? I don't have anything else other than I do like the line, take him away and roboticize him twice. Which I don't think that makes sense because I'm pretty sure putting a robot in the roboticizer like breaks it. I think that's something we've established.
That is literally a plot point
in the next episode.
Yes.
Okay, so I hope he was just joking then.
That's when he goes to roboticize Sleet, right?
I think maybe he was I don't know.
So, okay, good. Then let me transition to that. Oh my gosh. Like, the way they do that moment, maybe it's just because, I'm sort of, because they're actually trying, it's a 2-parter, it's a 3-parter actually, but I didn't know that at the time. And it's like, this show feels like it could actually go anywhere at this point. But when Robotnik is like, no, Sleet, you've really done it this time. You outright, you completely betrayed me this time. You're done. Throws him in the roboticizer. It actually starts to rise up, and in a sort of comical way, Sleet is holding it back. But it really convinced him. Like, is he actually going to do it? Is he actually going to finally get rid of Sleet and roboticize him? Imagine if they actually had done that, because he could have kept the character in, even roboticized. But anyway, they don't. But they get this close, and it's a cool moment because it's obvious the writers weren't ready to get rid of the character at that point, but. These episodes are gutsy, and I like what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A point of confusion is Knuckles laments having left the island and helping the trio because Aether advised against it. But why did they advise against it? If Knuckles hadn't gone with the heroes, Sleet still would have stolen the emerald. Dingo still would have stolen it from Sleet, and the emerald still would have shattered. So. What difference does his presence make? How did he ruin anything?
Having old Echidna men advise Knuckles not to fight Dr. Robotnik for arbitrary reasons is so normalized to me that I didn't even notice that, and that may be the one thing that they're like cribbing from the comics for his personality. I don't know.
Okay. Well, I guess that's consistent then with that background, but it's still weird here. I will say sort of on that line, so if we're ready for that, Aether advises, you can only get out of this, you can only solve the catastrophe if you make an alliance with Robotnik, which the heroes are like, no, that's stupid. We're not going to do that. But it leads to this awesome cliffhanger where Knuckles leaves the trio, and they're like, huh? Where'd Knuckles go? Then he pops up in front of Sleet, and he's like, I'd like to see Robotnik. I have like a proposal for him or something. And then boom, there's another cliffhanger. And you're like, oh wow, this is going to be interesting.
And it is interesting. In episode 30, New Echidna in Town, Knuckles reluctantly makes a deal with Robotnik to turn over Sonic and his family in exchange for finding the Chaos Emerald that will save Mobius. Knuckles soon regrets that he ever trusted the evil dictator after Robotnik begins to follow through on his plans to roboticize the Hedgehogs.
Oh man. Not as much as I am, but there are times when Robotnik is good in this show. So when Knuckles goes to negotiate with Robotnik, he's like, we can stop the world from being destroyed, but we need to work together. And Robotnik is like, well, yes, I will help you, but you have to trick Sonic into, falling into my hands and getting captured. And Knuckles is like, no, I'm not going to betray my friend. He's like, well, then I guess I'll just let the whole world be destroyed. And he's like, what? And Sleet is like, yeah, no, he'll do it. And like,
Yeah.
that is such a Robotnik thing. I love that.
Quality moments.
Mm.
I'll say, I don't know if it happened in this arc before now, but there's definitely a little bit of, like, ship teasing between Sonya and Knuckles.
Yeah,
which is
it's
weird.
pretty clear they're trying to tease a pseudo relationship between them.
Yeah, so nowadays it's like, that's a really weird thing, because I wouldn't say these characters have even really interacted that much. But it is historically significant for this podcast, because it has relevance to my childhood Sonic the Hedgehog fan character. Who was
please do tell.
Echidna Hedgehog hybrid, who was their son because I wanted him to be an Echidna Hedgehog. That's it. But
I did not remember that.
Uh-huh.
That is fun. That brings me back.
he was drawn really stupidly because he had like two dreadlocks like an Echidna and then Sonic hair behind him. He even had like a red face but blue quills. It was really bad.
Actually, I kind of... When you just describe it, I kind of like it. Anyway, the more we talk about stuff like stuff like that, the more I just get excited to talk about Sonic fan characters.
We'll do a fan characters episode. I promise.
Of course, I know.
But yeah, this show is so much better when it's got characters making consequential decisions. And frankly, Knuckles is pretty good in this show, other than being given some of Tails' jobs.
Right.
He's looking out for the best, but he's got a little bit of that gullible nature that he's got in the games and being too trusting.
Yeah.
Kind of, but at the end of the day, I think it kind of works.
Yeah, he's not a dumb skull
well.
like he is in the games.
Yeah.
No, I think it's believable because
it's pretty good.
I mean, it's even believable in the games, but they do it more so here because the idea is that he's isolated, so he doesn't know about. He's easily tricked because he's been exposed to people that would trick him.
Yeah.
Right.
But in this it's reinforced even more because he's trusting in his elder Athair, right?
Right.
So he's like, no, I have to trust in Robotnik. I have to do this, which makes it all the better when, predictably, from our perspective, Robotnik is like, okay, yeah, I'm going to roboticize the Hedgehogs, even though I said I wouldn't. And Robotnik is like, what? And Robotnik totally taunts him for being an idiot. And you can see that it breaks him up. And he's like, oh, gosh, I guess this was a bad idea after all. But, yeah, that's how Knuckles
Which,
works.
by extension, means that Athair was completely full of shit.
Yeah.
All of his advice was not relevant.
Yeah, so we do get the thing that I was talking about robots in roboticizers destroying the roboticizer.
Right.
Yeah, because they throw a swap bot in it and that destroys it.
Yeah.
Pop.
But the climax, so to speak, comes when Dingo... What does he, like, eat the Chaos Emeralds? Or are they, like, inside him when he's transformed?
They're inside him when he transforms.
Yeah, he's
and it gives him this, like, Akira body horror moment where he just keeps expanding, and it's like, ah!
It is completely out of left field, but I kind of dig it, actually.
Well, it's like we've been watching Dingo get transformed into random shit throughout the whole show, and so to have it then turn into something horrific.
Well, some of his transformations are a bit on the creepy side.
What is it with the
Yeah,
transformations?
they bring it up in, I think, episode like 4, randomly with no explanation at all. And yeah, it's just a thing, but it's not like a natural thing. It's through a device that
Right.
Fleet has, but it only works on Dingo apparently. And yeah, it's very strange.
It feels like maybe Dingo is like it is, I don't know, mutated in some way, and it could be
He looks
triggered.
mutated.
He does, and it could be like triggered by the device maybe. But it feels like it just comes out of left fucking field that, oh, by the way, I can turn into random shit.
I actually like Sleet and Dingo enough that I would be interested in seeing a backstory for these two.
Oh yeah, I'd like to as
Obvious,
well.
it's obvious they have a history because they
Right.
come up and approach Robotnik in the first episode, as a pair. It seems like they're partners. Obviously, they don't get along very well much of the time, but I would have to imagine there's definitely a story there of some sort. And
Oh, yeah.
I'd be interested in seeing it. Perhaps I can imagine all sorts of things. Now my mind is going in fan fiction directions, but I think your idea about him being a mutant that just triggered somehow, and Sleet somehow is able to take advantage of that. Maybe he found a device. Maybe someone else made it for him. Yeah, that makes sense to me. But on that line, it's a very useful ability, but also Dingo uses it. Sleet uses it commonly to punish Dingo or just be mean to him for no reason because he's a jerk. But in this episode, now granted, Dingo's mind is obviously corrupted, but it still feels like a righteous moment because for once, Dingo is in control of their own transformations and gets to be a force to be reckoned with. So I love it.
The liberation of Dingo.
Yes. After everything's built up, I kind of believe it, but unfortunately, after this arc, they stop trying again, and the plot resets. Gosh darn it!
Well, this episode, that is to say, this episode of the podcast is all about the cream of the crop, the very best that Sonic Underground has to offer, and I think that that's really going to be the highlight that we end up seeing is the complete difference, the valley of difference between the very best episodes of Sonic Underground and the entire rest of Sonic Underground.
Right.
We went through the other 31 episodes of this show, and the amount of nothing in them makes it mind-boggling that these good episodes even exist in the form that they do. I have no idea how this show was produced.
It seems so strange. So I assume this started after Sad AM.
This show started in 1999, yeah.
Ooh, wow, yeah, quite a bit after Sad AM.
And it is the ultimate Sonic anomaly, a show that has so many elements that are not really related to Sonic the Hedgehog, and so many episodes that do not look, sound, or feel like Sonic the Hedgehog, and so many elements that are just completely out there, and it came at a time where Sonic was undergoing brand reunification, because this was the time of Sonic Adventure, where everything had to use the new Sonic design, and where you weren't even, allowed to make it about, X thing or Y thing. But there's no explanation. I don't know anything about anybody who worked on this, and, maybe I should have done a little bit more research, but I don't think it would have helped.
To be honest, there's only so much research you can do before you just run into you run into spots where there's just no information available about it. And I feel like for this show at least, there's going to be a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the way it turned out, I feel like there has to be, and the fact that it never was given a conclusion too.
Yeah, don't forget, their mother was never found.
Oh my god, it stings, man. When the opening is all about that, and that's what the whole show is. I'm afraid that this show didn't necessarily deserve a conclusion, given what we got in 40 episodes.
Right. If in 40 episodes they cannot progress the plot
meaningfully.
Yeah, meaningfully. I'm willing to agree that it's not realistic to ask for an extension or ask to actually finish the show.
Well, maybe sometime we'll talk about the fan comic that is a fan-made last episode for it, because that one's pretty good.
I'd be interested in it. Because to give sort of overall thoughts, what's here isn't very good. There's just lots of pieces that interest me. The show has potential. It just wasn't realized. But I think a fan conclusion could take everything that's good and make something of it.
You can feel how much this show didn't want to be the show that it is, and it sucks when there's something really cool about it that's just buried in this, that's a diamond in the rough, so to speak. You know, and this show is among fandom, it is the joke of Sonic, which I both agree with and disagree with. It's really hard to really make a judgment on it, because it's like, you know, so many Adventures of Sonic episodes for me were just like the equivalent to TV static, whereas this show is like, the episodes are clearly handled with more conventional wisdom in TV writing, but I care about them even less because they don't have the bravery to be so stupid that I would remember.
Right.
So I don't know. It's an enigma of the highest order.
It's a shame as well, because the good stuff is, like, I don't know if you could say it's on the level of SAT-AM, but it's
not too far off, no.
Yeah, it could be on the level of SAT-AM, but there's not enough of said good stuff.
Right.
You know, it's telling when, you know, the series is 40-some episodes, or like 40, like I think exactly 40, actually.
It is 40,
Yes.
And this episode, I watched 9 of them, and you guys agree that is the best of the show.
And then also the baby episode.
And the baby episode, because why would I not watch the baby? It feels like the writers wanted to do something like SAT-AM, but they didn't have the same writing staff, or the same quality writing staff, maybe. And they were able to do some arcs, I guess, but they really had to do more cartoony hijinks.
Yeah, I feel like there must have been something running against them.
Right.
Because they got to choose the premise.
Right.
But then they didn't get to execute on it, really.
Right.
Perhaps, you know, there was a mandate of some sort of restriction. You know, someone just didn't like the style. I don't know. Who's to say? I'd be curious, but I feel like they must have been held back in some way.
At the end of the day, there's no way for us to know, unfortunately, unless we go find someone who worked on it and see if they can tell us. We'll never know what it was like.
Well, sometimes you don't need to know. And next week on Deep Dive Zone, it's the rest of Sonic Underground. I had to re-record this bit because I accidentally said the manga episode was next week, but it's not. Well, thank you guys for helping me tonight.
Yeah.
It was a ride.
It was interesting.
And to all of our subscribers, thank you so much for watching, and like and share the video if you did, and if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, you can reach us at deepdivezonepod@gmail.com or at deepdivezone on Twitter. Hope you guys have a great night, and we will see you next week.